Former President Jimmy Carter has been a fairly outspoken critic of President Donald Trump, and he has voiced his criticism once again. Now, Raw Story says, ex-President Jimmy Carter unloads on cruel Trump. U.S. government is now, quote, worse than it has been before. It says, when speaking with Salon about his famous crisis of confidence speech, former President Jimmy Carter had this observation about America's current commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. Quote, I think that under Trump, the government is worse than it has been before. This is the first time I remember when the truth is ignored. Allies are deliberately aggravated. China, Europe, Mexico, and Canada are hurt economically and have to hurt us in response. Americans see the future worse than the president, and immigrants are treated cruelly. It says this is probably Carter's most headline-worthy observation, but it is not one for which he deserves to be most remembered. For that, one must look back 39 years ago, and of course he had to deal with the Iran hostage crisis. But Jimmy Carter's criticism of Donald Trump is pretty fucking true. And even if you're in favor of tariffs, the way that Trump is going about them is clearly a fucking dumbass way of going about them. You can't just do blanket tariffs and just say, I support these tariffs because they're tariffs. Like, you have to actually be strategic and correct in the way that you do tariffs. And I think that it's sort of intellectually lazy to just be like, oh, I support tariffs, so if you put any kind of a tariff, I support it. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, when it comes to the treatment of immigrants, of course those have been fucking terrible. The zero tolerance policy that has been in place by President Donald Trump is an absolutely disgusting policy, which is unfucking acceptable because you're talking about separating children from their parents, which is one of the most disgusting and inhumane and vile things you can do as a nation, for committing a misdemeanor, which is crossing the border, which is unfucking acceptable. You take these kids and then you put them in cages. That's fucking unacceptable. If it's a misdemeanor, send them back. Don't separate them from each other, because that is one of the most cruel, vile, and disgusting things that you could possibly do. And of course, as a result of that, there's been a ton of outrage, as there should be. And there has been, he goes, oh, I need Congress to do this because I can't change my own discretionary, executive shit that I'm doing, enforcement shit that I'm doing. But then a couple days later, he comes out with an executive order that does just that. But I don't even know exactly how well that was written and the effect that it would necessarily have. But I thought there was an Onion article that really well summed that up, of saying, political science, something like political scientists are shocked to figure out how Donald Trump was able to, sign an executive order doing something he claimed he couldn't just 2 days ago. So the Onion, stay winning pretty much. And obviously there has been a blatant destruction of the idea of truth. Now, of course, truth has been shit among pretty much all presidential administrations. There's no doubt. But this level of just lying to the face of the American public every single day is unfucking acceptable. And I've done a bunch of different segments talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's the press secretary and essentially the, pathological liar for the Trump administration, to cover for them, and how many lies she states all the fucking time. So Jimmy Carter is 100% right. This Trump administration is fucking stupid. It's very corrupt, as I just spoke about, with how corrupt their administration is as well.